Hello and welcome to Politically Incorrect Knitters. My name is Ann Pinkava, joined as always by the lovely Deplorable Knitter.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today.
And this episode is sponsored by Lynn of Chicken Lady 5 Arts. You can go to chickenlady5arts.com and get 20% off your order with our code Solstice20 PIK. And you can get beautiful yarns such as this month's giveaway, Productively Procrastinating. And it is lovely and green, and she sent this purple along with it, which is phenomenal. And this is on her Rhode Island red base, which is a worsted, and it's merino, and it's absolutely wonderful.
It is. It's gorgeous.
We were talking a little bit about this before. And anyways, go to her website, use the promo code. She is redoing her website, so there's new stuff popping up every time. Sign up for her newsletter. And especially sign up for her newsletter because her Christmas Advent calendar is coming on up. And I got a little bit of a promo of what she's doing. I'm excited. This year, you know that she's doing collections of musicals. And it is the 45th anniversary of Grease. So she's going to have Grease-themed Advent set.
That's cool. I used to love that movie. Although watching it now as an adult, I'm like, it's kind of hokey, but it's so fun.
It is fun. It's a good time. And I'm betting there's going to be, pink lady yarns and all sorts of bright and colorful stuff. So it's all your bag.
Yeah, I am a bit, we were just talking about this. I'm a bit more bright and colorful than Anne. Anne was going on and on and on about the new opal yarns that Anna Knitter has. And she's like, oh, I need Van Gogh socks. And I'm like, do you though? And how many Van Gogh socks do we think we need?
All of them.
And the Van Gogh yarns are very pretty, but they're based on Van Gogh paintings. So they're kind of earthy tones and muted colors. And I'm scrolling through and I found a yarn on her website that I think is way more up my alley. It is called, do I know what it's called? I don't know. It's called Beauty. And look at this. It's like all like hot colors. And I need to make some beachy something with this thing, don't I?
I think so.
I was just telling Anne, you might be able to hear my family this week because we are at my dad and my stepmom's house. And I think they are playing headbands, which is the game where you put the card on the headband and then you have to guess what you are. And it requires a lot of shouting. So if you guys can hear that, sorry. It's life. I have so many things. I was sitting here talking to Anne before we got started, and I have so many things I wish I had brought with me. I got that blouse barn colorway from Chicken Lady that's like a green with like specks, not specks, but like spots of blue on it. Holy moly, I don't know what I'm going to make with it. It's one of those yarns that I think I might have in my stash for a while because it may not be worthy of any project. I may have to sit there until the project comes along and I go, that's what that's for. Because I just keep looking at it and thinking, I want to make something with it, but nothing I make is worthy currently. So I hope I'm not the only one that does this stuff, but like, that's what's going on.
No, I totally do that too, where I'll have a skein of yarn and it's just like sitting on a table. I'm like, I should clean that up. I'm like, no, but if I clean it up, I won't actively be thinking about it. And I need that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I finished 2 hats this week. If you make a donation to my St. Jude fundraiser on Instagram, you will be entered into a raffle to win one of my finished projects. And one of them is the Lucky Charm hat by Rosie Posey Designs. And it is beautiful and lovely. It has clovers on it for St. Patrick's Day. And I didn't bring it with me, so here's a picture. And then I also finished another project. It's a chunky cabled hat that I made with Revolution True Colors yarn, and it is so pretty. I love the way it turned out, and that's by Hazy Gray It's HGSJ Knits or something like that. Hazy Gray by SJ something. I will put the name on here with the picture, and you will get to see how beautiful it turned out. And that's a Revolution yarn. And if you are part of my Patreon, Revolution is dyeing up a colorway just for us next month. So you guys will get your own. But I have nothing to show you. I started a hat brim. This is the hat. This is going to be the hat with the Latvian braid that I've been doing for my knitting class. Last week at co-op, I happened to randomly sell the one that I had finished. Somebody needed a present. I said, I have this hat. They said, may I please buy it? And so, yeah.
Nice.
So I have to make a new one for my students. So I'm working on that right now, but that's as good as it gets here. What about you? What you got going on?
Well, if you caught our live from the Knitting Wars this past week, which you should, because it was a great time. We had Maria from the Geeky Crochet. She also has a podcast called Unlocking Lore, which is a lot of fun. She's like a huge Celtic myth nerd.
I'm glad you said the name, because I meant to text you because I was looking for something to listen to, and I'm like, Maria had something, but what was it called? It was ULL. What's that stand for? I don't remember. I couldn't remember. So Unlocking Lore, check it out. That's what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, I was listening to her interview a couple. It was trying to remember. It was Writing Raven and the Master of TDS, which I followed them both on Twitter. I don't know if they're especially, well-known people, but they're really interesting to listen to. I was really enjoying their podcast.
That sounds fun.
So yeah, so that was fun. But on that show, which was a good time, we also had Neil and Tabitha was back. So
yeah. She was able to join us this week. It was fun. It got a little bit PG-13 there for a few minutes. So if you guys like to watch with your kids, part of that episode is not quite appropriate. Just be forewarned.
Yeah, that can happen. Well,
it was funny though.
It was funny, but it's one of those things where it's like we were, talking about new and horrible things and babies. So, like the conversation itself, like kind of, you need some humor in that, and sometimes it's essential. Anyways.
Yes, the humor was needed, and God, was it funny. Tabitha's gonna sue us for slander, but that's fine. It's all right.
That's cool. She's a good sport.
What's a little bit of slander between friends anyway?
Anyways, so yeah, it was a good time. Go check out the episode. But then I showed off that I finished my Cthulhu mittens. Aren't those awesome? Sorry, I need to show them off some more because, and I love the little red eyes. They make me so happy. But anyways.
Are those duplicate stitch, those eyes?
Yeah, I duplicate stitch the eyes because I was going in the round for the rest of it. And I'm like, nah.
No. Yeah. Nobody wants to do that.
Yeah. It just takes a little bit for the rest of it. And yes. These are going to be a gift. And I am making a matching hat, which there isn't much of, but it's going to be mostly dark blue. And I'm just going to put one of these little palm squids on it. So, yeah.
So that it can be a little bit more discreet of a design,
Well, I've seen people do the thing with the mittens before where they'll take the entire mitten back and then like multiply it by 4 or 5 to make a hat with it. And I don't know, like, I could work it out maybe, but I don't know that I like the structure of that as much.
No, and that design is kind of long. So like if the top of the head was up near the decreases, then it may just look strange. Yeah, I'm a fan of using a small one.
Yeah, if this is bent back and no. Just have mostly normal hat, little squid on it. That'll be just fine. Anyways.
Will he also have red eyes?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And okay, it's the stupid little things that hang you up because they're, it's most of it's just going to be a ribbed beanie. But I'm sitting there like, okay, how big is the stripe going to be? Am I going to put a little red stripe in between? And like, no, pull it all out. That doesn't work. Back. All right, sure. Go with the most boring. It happens.
Well, I think we all do that where you kind of are like, oh, but I want to tie it all together, but it's not worth it. Just go do it the easy way.
I know. And this yarn too, it's Cascade 220, but it's yarn that we bought for that patriotic quilt that we were going to do. So this is the color that we deemed correct for Lady Liberty green. So I'm now making Cthulhu's with it.
Mm-hmm. It is. I've used that for other projects too now. It's that's too bad. Maybe we'll make, I don't know. I don't know. I've been jonesing for a group project. All of the craftivists have all of these projects they work on together. I'd like to come up with something for us, but it hasn't struck me yet. So the more I talk about it, the more it'll get in there, and then it'll come. All of a sudden, I'm like ready for bed. It's probably my sleepy time tea and my knitting, and I'm 100 years old. And so I was telling Anne, this mug was mine when I was, I don't know, small. It's weird. I'm at my dad's house. I never lived in this house, but still stuff from your childhood pops up, and you're like, oh yeah, look at that. I remember drinking cocoa out of that before I thought tea was cool. So there you go. But yep. So how's your Lent knitting going?
Oh, Lent knitting is going awesome. Here, let me go ahead because I am all caught up for today. So Lent knitting spoilers, y'all. Anyways, that it is here. I'll hold it up a little higher. The asymmetrical shawl, and then, anyways, but this is the end of. Oh, I have it backwards. That's my problem. That's why it's not showing up. Anyway, so this is the end of this section with the lace and the bit of garter. But yeah, we're doing, I don't know, like the pinks and purples are fun, but we're kind of moving into some moody grays. And I like the lavenders and the, everything else.
Yeah. Can you hold it so we can see a little bit more of it, like back a little bit?
Sure.
Like more of the whole picture?
Sure. That it is going on like that.
It's pretty. I was thinking that this kind of yellowish line that you've got in there was kind of odd, but then you can see it kind of ties in with the colors near the beginning. It's not quite as random as it looked when you were just holding it up on its own.
Yeah. Kind of a little spurt of color there. But yeah, it's fun. It's pretty. I do admit that if I didn't have the Anne, if you don't finish these 2 rows right now, you're going to be behind for when you have to do your rows tomorrow. But sometimes I'd be like, okay, I'm putting this to the side. It's very good for, no, you will do your rows. So everything will make sense and it will all be good. I don't know.
Yeah, I would be just behind on that. And then I would probably frog it in about 6 months because I know how I work. So,
well, I mean, like I have other projects like half finished sweaters and things that if I was like, no, I have to knit my rows because I have to get the next prompt tomorrow, then I mean, I'd be kind of, oh, that'll be fine. That'll be like, I'm committed, man. I'm finishing this shawl. It's going to be good.
Yep. I'm excited to see the finished product.
Yeah.
It's very pretty. I can't talk.
So am I. I too am excited.
Have you looked at the pattern all the way to the end?
I have not, no.
So it's a surprise?
It is a surprise. Or
Fun.
for me, I mean, I could have looked at the pattern to the end. But yeah, and I should probably sit down and weave in all my ends already. So that's all nicer. That it ends so, you could wear it to church on Easter kind of a thing. And so now because I haven't spoiled myself with any of the colors either. So it's like, okay, now I got to figure out what my Easter outfit is if I'm going to wear it with this shawl.
Yeah. Well, if you're gonna wear it with that shawl, you better start working on those ends.
Yeah.
Well, there's not that many of them, but still, it's annoying.
I mean, there's one for each day, but yeah, it'd be a bit to sit down and do them all, but whatever. And if I finish all the ends, that's less to do last minute the day before Easter. Like, hey, remember all those ends you ignored?
Yeah, so probably what's going to happen is on Saturday before Easter, Anne will be weaving in all her ends. 10 o'clock Saturday night, Anne's going to be weaving in that.
Like,
Right?
hey, that's all cool. Don't
That's
mind
what I would be
me.
doing, whatever.
Me and how many other people who got the Lent shawl. It's like, oh, wait, I'm 2 weeks behind.
No, actually, that would be me. Sitting up until 2 a.m. trying to get it done because I can finish this. I can finish this. Yeah, that's cool. So is that all the crafting you've done this week?
Pretty much. My blanket is, I won't show it, mostly because it's in the thing my phone is sitting on. But it's basically where it was. I'm almost to the last end of my first quarter. So that's good.
Cool.
Yeah.
That project is big, but it seems like it would be kind of nice to have that, like, okay, now a quarter of it's done. Okay, now I'm halfway. Like you have very visual, like,
Right.
when you're knitting on something like this, you can be like, oh, I'm halfway, but it's not the same as like having this big finished looking thing, which is kind of neat.
Right. And especially since, I think I said how I did it, that the other Quinn's quilt is very colors go exactly where they go. And this one, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to keep my edge colors the same. And I chose the colors I put in the middle. So those will be the same throughout. So it will make a nice little star on the quilt. And I'm like, okay, but the rest of it, they're just going to be random. I'm just going to grab whatever yarn happens to work in this general kind of like sea cottage color scheme. It's lots of blues and grays and green. It's just going to be random. And from that respect, it's really nice because I might actually run out of yarn for this one because there's so much of it. But because it has a little bit more of a scrappy quality, like there's one square in there where I've run out of yarn like 3 times and just added a comparable gray color. And like, okay, I'm done. Okay, here's the next one. All right, this is fine. But yeah, it's fun. I
That's
like
cool.
it. It makes me happy.
Good. Very good. I'm really mad that I don't have any of my stuff. My stuff turned out so pretty this week, and I have nothing to show you guys. Oh, well. So, where do you want to start with news? What continent are we on?
Well, I don't know if you want to start with good news or bad news, or
is there any good news?
There is good news, actually.
Okay, then let's start there. I didn't know it existed.
Okay, it's not all fun times and bank collapses out there. There's
okay.
Anyways, I won't go there currently. Anyways, so if you remember the Dutch farmers protests, they this past week have been riding tractors up and down the streets again, because they have their own political party and it's election season. So it translates into like the BBB or something, but it translates into the farmer citizen movement. So as the numbers run, and I have to look at the numbers because I will admit I don't understand Dutch politics very well. So when they're like, it's a win, I'm like, that's great. How does that work?
Okay.
Okay, but they won 15 Senate seats with 20% of the vote. So but the Green Party also has 15 Senate seats. The Prime Minister's coalition went from 24 seats to 8 seats. So that they lost quite a bit. And the sort of mainline conservative party, which I mean, guessing by the rest of the world. We have a lot of rhinos, even though they're not called rhinos around the world. So they lost exponentially to the farmer citizen movement. So they have much more of a voice in their Senate right now, which is awesome. And also, it was a big turnout at 57% of the population. It's not often that high. So that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a little review on that the Dutch government that the Netherlands is actually one of the most efficient places to farm in the world. Like, they are half the size of Indiana. Like, that is the size of the country, but they are also like the second exporter of goods, of farm goods.
How? That seems like crazy to me.
Well, they're very so
yeah, and also if they're that small, they're able to produce excess and ship it out. Whereas like here, we have lots more people, so we probably don't export as much, right? Possibly. I love it when we're smart.
Look, man, I'm just here to report on the Dutch farmers. I admit I do not know a whole lot about Dutch farming, except the main issue being that that the government now say that they're taxing nitrogen. Nitrogen is the problem. Remember when you were in school and they're like, hey, and they talked about George Washington Carver. I'm sorry, a little dyslexia there. And about how great it was that he invented peanut butter so we could plant all of these peanuts so that we could restore the nitrogen in the soil after other crops. And that's fantastic. What a great invention. We love peanut butter. And that they talk about, hey, plants need nitrogen. That's, after all, lightning strikes help, but also planting different crops. And this is a wonderful thing. Now you can't really attack carbon emissions in farming because they're growing plants, and that's the thing. And cow flatulence can only go so far when you talk about the ozone layer. So nitrogen, the thing that actually helps things to grow, no, that's wrong now. You can't do too much of it. And then when you're like, hey, okay, then we'll reduce artificial fertilizer. Okay, and so the most natural thing to do when you reduce artificial fertilizer is to use cow manure, obviously. But they're like, no, you can't do that either. We want you to cut down your animals by 1/3, and we're taking your property and their eminent domaining property to put up housing instead of feeding the people who you would then house, and also feeding portions of Europe as well. It's not just them. It's So anyways, huge protest, and especially since, we have all these issues now with, Bill Gates in America, who is the largest owner of farmland, which is super creepy. And we have all these issues with, people saying you'll eat the bugs and you'll be happy. You won't be able to afford the cows because there'll be less cows. The elites, of course, they'll eat the cows, but not you peasants. Right. So having all of these food supply issues, and the food supply issues directly related to actual health issues, is a major thing. So the Dutch farmers see it, and they are definitely protesting and speaking out about it, which is awesome. And winning elections.
Yeah, and we need to take a page out of their book, because I don't want to eat bugs personally, and I love how everybody's like, follow the science, but now all of a sudden we're like, nitrogen is bad for the soil. Like, there's a reason that, like, I'm not a farmer, obviously, but there's a reason that they don't plant the same crops in the same fields after so many years, because it depletes the soil. They need nutrients to grow well, to, these people who don't do the jobs are trying to tell people how to do the jobs, and they don't know. I feel like if I went into Anne's work, where I've never worked before, and started telling her what to do, she would look at me like I was stupid, and rightly so, because I don't do that job. Mm-hmm. I'm tired of it.
Yeah. Sorry. And I know it really is. It's all a power grab. It's all a gross power grab too. That there's the idea that um, instead, that you want to centralize a worldwide food, that it's not just that, okay, so you have farmers and they're successful and they may have a big farm, but it's like, again, Bill Gates, the Microsoft guy, the from the studio that brought you, if you don't download this update, we're going to wreck your computer, the computer that you bought and you thought you owned. That guy is going to come in and tell you what you ought to eat.
I mean, when you put it that way, though, are we really that surprised?
Yeah.
I mean, you'll self-destruct if you don't update to Windows 11 or 25 or whatever it is, X something. I don't know what they are on now, but if you don't upgrade to it, you'll get the screen of death.
I hate every single one of them, but here's no, but as I was joking on Knitting Wars, I had just seen Logan, and I am the internet explorer of watching movies. I'm like, I saw this and now I'm upset about this. And everyone's like, that's like a 5-year-old movie, Anne. What are you talking about? I'm like, no, I saw it and I'm mad. And even though the movie made me angry, like the part that made me angry is that they have, well, a lot of it did, but at least give this dumb movie props, because now whenever I reach for a bag of chips, I'm like, ooh, processed food. That's the thing that killed the X-Men. Sorry, I can't do that. The most irrational of thoughts. So like, well, anything helps.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it, so I don't know. Maybe someday. Although since my husband doesn't like those movies, and since if he watched them, I would, but since he doesn't, it will probably never happen. Which is fine with me. So okay, so they protested and they won some seats, so that's a good thing. Does anybody know what that means, or not yet? It's new, just happened.
Well, hopefully that they can repeal the legislation that they have, that they're trying to, like I said, eminent domain farms.
Okay.
So yeah. So that is the hope.
Okay. Good.
Right. Also, well, good, maybe bad. Good in that it's quietly happening, or good in that it's happening, bad in that it's quietly happening. That all of these European countries are very quietly dumping all of their COVID vaccines. Like there's no demand for them. They're just being thrown away, burnt, gotten rid of. People don't want them anymore. It's only stupid America that still has the mandate in until May, I think, for foreign visitors to come in who are unvaccinated. Even though we're not testing, we're not doing anything, we've all but admitted that the vaccines are useless. But you can have two people who, in fact, both have COVID. One is vaccinated, one is not. And only the vaccinated one will be allowed in the country, even if they were showing active symptoms. So it's really pointless. No, but
yeah, that's fantastic. And I just saw something this week about the new and improved COVID vaccine for children 6 months and older. And so it's just crazy to me that you're saying all these other countries are throwing theirs out, and we're like, here, give it to your babies. Come on.
Yeah, and especially since, like, oh, look to Europe, they're so clever. Most European countries are saying under 50 years of age. If they're saying take the vaccine at all, they're saying that you don't need it if you're under 50. Some cases 60. But yeah, and at the same time, England has ended its public reporting of the quote, it's called the yellow card vaccine injury. Only 44 claimants on that have been given any money. That because it's through the NHS, that if you are vaccine injured, that there is a payout system for that. But the German health minister think it's Karl Lauterbach, I believe, that he says, even though a year ago he was like, everybody take the vaccine. He's now saying like, well, our government has already put in place that vaccine companies are not liable. So I can't do anything about that, but I'm out there saying that the pharmaceutical companies should pay people who are vaccine injured or bereaved. Even though he kind of put a little thing in at the end that, basic that they should have medication for the issues they caused with their medication. I'm like, oh, this is a beautiful cycle. Just give more.
No, that seems like a bad idea. I mean, if it was a medication cause thing, let's step away.
Uh-huh.
Let's not just keep medicating.
Yeah. Everybody take a moment. Just take a little tiny step back. We'll come back to you later. But
Yeah, I don't know. This whole thing has been crazy. So, is there more on the vaccines or no?
no.
So, one of the things I heard this week was somebody was talking about the inflation. I hate having two of these in. Somebody was talking about the inflation and how we're in this predicament that we're in right now in the US. And I forgot about it. It's weird how like stuff has been so much stuff has been happening that like I don't think back. Like, do you remember why we had such high inflation? Do you remember the cause of it?
Well, it was said to be Putin.
Right, but what it really was the COVID bailouts that Biden did, and all the money that they were printing that we didn't have. And it's just weird how it, like all of this stuff is just COVID vaccines, and now we've got the inflation, and now our banks are failing, and they're still trying to say it's Putin.
Yeah.
You're looking at me like you don't.
Okay. No, yeah, there's all of these issues, and I don't know, and that we have all day after day. There is a new stupidity and a new scandal and a new, oh, the banks are failing, but we're not going to bail them out. Oh, but we are actually. And Janet Yellen saying like, oh yeah, there's no banking crisis. It's like, ooh, we have to be careful during this banking crisis. And there's no accountability and there's nothing. And also just a little aside about the Silicon Valley Bank too, that there's a lot of Etsy sellers and stuff that use that bank. And again, obviously I don't want anyone to lose their hard-earned livelihood by going through this bank. But also it's kind of, okay, they're a woke bank that does stupid woke crap, which you can tell if you look at Etsy's website that they would support that. And it's kind of the point now. And I mean, there's that their CEO or whatever that she has on her profile, that if you can't see it, you can't be it. So she is a woman of color who is gay and a banker. And I'm like, hang on, but if you can't see it, how did you become this? I'm confused. Props to you for having success here, but I'm like, you're not consistent in yourself. Anyways, that she's off skiing and whatever the week before this bank collapse, and everybody gets bonuses, and then the bank does collapse, and then we're getting government bailouts now, so I guess consequences don't matter. But it's okay. So oftentimes we'll look, we as conservatives generally will look at a woke bank or a woke corporation, and you'll be like, yeah, I'm not going to work with them just for simple principle reasons. Like, I believe that all men are created equal. And therefore, this whole diversity, equity, and inclusion thing really don't work out for me, because that does not mean that all men are created equal. That means that some are more equal than others. And I'm not playing those games. I'm not, sorry, not an actual racist. So I'm very against this. Bye. And, you might want to back away from these companies, but also just plain and simple, they are bad investments. you don't want to do business with them because they have no actual business sense.
Mhm.
You might as well put your money into the new Marvels movie, which keeps getting delayed and delayed and delayed because it's woke garbage and nobody wants to see it. The new Ant-Man Quantumania thing, losing cash, bleeding it. And especially when you talk about the reshoots that it probably had but are unreported or very expensive. Things like this. Companies like Disney or like, again, Silicon Valley Bank or name a woke corporation, they're not doing well. And yes, they may be propped up by, in Silicon Valley Bank's case, the government or by foreign investors or by just stupid people. But fundamentally, they are not sound. They're not based on proper principles and therefore are going to totally flake out.
That is a very good analysis, Anne. Thank you. And my mom and I were talking about it earlier in the week, and she was saying, I think as consumers, as people, kind of just take stuff for granted. We haven't really had to like vet things in our country. We've been really lucky with how things are run. But now it's come out that Silicon Valley Bank gave 73 million to Black Lives Matters. They run Etsy, they run all of these different, not they run them, but all of these different companies that have these values are associated with them. And I think that it's kind of, I mean, you're not going to be able to do it with everything. There are some things, like if you're an Etsy seller, you kind of have to use what they have. But also, as the person, it's time to start looking into things deeper. Like,
Yeah.
hey, am I going to support this bank that is giving money hand over fist to Black Lives Matters? Probably not, if I can help.
Well, and also with the Etsy thing, it's like, okay, so I mean, there's plenty enough people who have left Etsy because of bad woke policies and because they booted people and things off and like your stop the steal pattern and other things. And there's other people who have left Etsy because they're not good to their sellers and they keep raising fees. But it's all of that is like, yeah, those are all awesome reasons to lose to lose Etsy. But also it's like there's all of these reasons that I don't like them, but fundamentally they don't work. These things that they're destroying themselves with will make it so the platform doesn't work. You might stay on the platform. I'm still on the platform, even though, like, yeah, looking to get out. It's an issue. But if you're on there and you're like, well, it works well enough for this, but it's breaking itself enough that you're like, well, it's the biggest place to sell. Even then is not going to save the collapse of it.
Right.
And that's with a lot of things, I think.
Oh, but back to the inflation and how bad things are and stuff now, and the bank bailouts. And I can't believe we're bailing out banks. I mean, I don't want people to lose their money, but also, I don't know.
But also
It
that
seems they should.
not to be a downer, because I'm there's some things to be a downer about, and like like I said, to be ultimate, things can be fixed. But oh boy, buddy, it ain't gonna be good. That part of the bank is fundamentally insolvent is like it's gonna be bailed out by the US government. Guys, wait, hang on.
Yeah, no, but it seems like it would be better if they bailed out the people and not the actual bank. Like, let the bank fail, use the federal insurance for the people that need it and things like that, and move on. But it's not a perfect answer either way. But so we have all of this stuff going on, right? Like this week I was watching the news, and I feel like our country, I've never seen it this awful. Like, a lot of bad stuff has been happening, but then I was watching, and in Texas, there's thousands of people rushing the border, and then we've got banks failing, and then we've got our people in charge who are saying, so we need to give more stuff to Ukraine. Do you know that they are actually funding the pensions in Ukraine? They are funding pensions in Ukraine, and we are living in close to a third world country here. Like, yes, I know we're not actually a third world country, but I say it all the time, right? If your airplane is exploding, never mind that your mask isn't going to do shit for you because your airplane's exploding, but put yours on first and then help the person next to you. We've got to stop just, I mean, if we got into a conflict now, we have nothing. We have given all of our military supplies to Ukraine. What is going on here? People are like, oh, you want the Ukrainians to die. Well, no, I don't want anybody to die, but I also prefer that our country stay safe. Like, that's number one. We can't help other people if we fail. So yeah, we do need to take care of ourselves.
They're taking a bat to the foundations of the middle class in America. And Ukraine, which again, we have given them more supplies and like we've given them over and above what Russia's own military budget is. It's like, y'all can't manage to win. Then I heard something stupid about, Ukraine's war debts. How could Ukraine possibly have any debts in their war? The rest of us, the rest of the countries of the world, we have debts in our war. America had debts for World War I and II. Britain had debts for World War I and II. Britain also had debts for freeing slaves. They all paid those debts. It takes time when you have a war. You have to count the cost. Ukraine, on the other hand, is our lovely little sugar mama out there. And we're going to make sure that they don't have to pay for anything because we're so good and virtuous. And also, why, again, not a fan of Putin. That whole free speech thing that I love, that I'm having a real issue with anyone who, for example, takes out political dissidents or monitors or bans religious speech or wait, hang on, we're having some issues with both sides of this conflict. Why are we in it?
Right. I mean, Zelensky is the one who was shutting down the Orthodox churches and stuff. Like, this is not stuff that the U.S. stands for. And
shutting down all political opposition in Ukraine.
I don't know why we've gotten in bed with him. Is it because he knows too much about Biden? Is it because he was, I mean, we know shady stuff was going on with Hunter in Ukraine. So is that why we're married to them now?
Yes, and not to mention that he was taking all the money and buying crypto with it, which was going right into Democrat pockets.
Yeah, it's a big vicious circle. And honestly, at this point, anybody who's supporting this, Democrat, Republican, need to go. They really do. And Tucker Carlson sent out a questionnaire for all of the Republican hopefuls that are probably going to be running, and almost none of them support the war in Ukraine. And so what's the first thing that happens? Lindsey Graham's talking about how terrible those people are. Why, Lindsey Graham? What money what do they have on you? What is going on here?
I don't think Lindsey Graham would have any sort of reputation if he didn't get to be trotted out on Sean Hannity's show and talk about how great they're got to have boots on the ground, got to have other men's sons die for whatever is going on here.
I don't know. I just don't understand the obsession with the Ukraine thing. War is bad. Nobody likes war. Nobody likes it.
Yeah. We're not even saying that Russia should have come in and invaded or done any of that. Saying is there is no resolution to this. There is nothing. There's just actual literal Vanity Fair photo shoots of Zelensky and his little green shirt that he's.
Yeah, but I gotta say though, I'm not saying Putin is right. But also Ukraine wanted to get into NATO. Putin said, if Ukraine gets into NATO, I'm going to bomb them. And we were like, oh no, it's okay. Ukraine come on into NATO, and now they're bombing them, and we're surprised.
Like, oh no, he's actually.
I don't know. It's like, Yeah, no, it's like when my kids are like, can I do this? And I'll be like, no. And if you do that, you're grounded. And then they go do it. And then they're surprised that they're grounded. No, it's not rocket science. And I'm in no way saying that Putin had any right to do that, but also he was pretty letting us know.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it was like a, oh, gee, surprise, guys, I'm going to do this. No, we knew.
Right.
Freaking nonsense, dude. Yeah, so that's fun. So we have no money in the US. They're invading our borders. Although I got a question. My husband said this to me the other day, and I don't know the answer. Maybe you do. So why doesn't Texas do something more stringent on their borders?
I think they probably could.
Yeah.
I don't know though.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it would be an expense, and it would be, if it was going against what the president says, it could be difficult for them, but I don't know. It just, the seeing how people are just exploding into the country, couldn't they do something else? Yeah, so that's super awesome. How about, what else you got?
Well, you were going to mention the Dylan Mulvaney thing.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure what else, if you had anything else that would pair better beforehand.
Yeah. Oh, that's all right. And again, this is like we said a couple weeks back, it's like this is a monster of the week issue, but it is also a, while you're destroying everything, and I mean everything, and I mean everything, that we also have Drew Barrymore kneeling at the feet of Dylan Mulvaney. But okay, so what was weirdest about this to me is that, okay, so she does big doe eyes and she is sitting there, and the whole thing is like, you that I can't imagine anybody could hate you, and he kind of giggles up like, oh, I can't imagine anyone to hate you either. And it's like, and you know who hates me most, sometimes myself. And the thing is that she's kneeling there and she's talking there, but she, the actress, is talking. This is a conversation that you would have kind of staged on like Full House or something, mother to daughter. This is very much kind of how that goes. But
it was certainly staged,
but sorry,
no, okay.
no, definitely staged. But he got the wrong cue cards, because not in a sense that he wasn't supposed to say anything, but that it was, she is sitting there like, this is like, she's fulfilling the delusion of quote girlhood that this man has, okay, and she's kneeling there and she's doing all of this, and anyways, but then he kind of like giggles up and does the like, oh well, it's like, oh well, me too, and he kind of quickly jumps on the kind of moment, just like, no, this isn't. It's like, this was drawn out 90s sitcom and you made it all about you even more. Like, you couldn't even play your cards right on the stupid stage. Ugh, it was so bad.
It was so bad, but this is the where we're living now, where we've got a woman kneeling in front of a man pretending to be a woman, acting like they're so brave and wonderful. And okay, so I forgot I had this until right now, but I have this. So today I was out and about, I ran some errands, and I decided I was a little bit hangry. So I got some M&Ms, and can you see this? I can't see where the camera is.
Yeah.
So
yeah, supporting women by not even using our graphic design to put the stupid cartoon characters up the right way.
Yeah, supporting women, flipping the status quo. And I also noticed, and I didn't realize that there was anything different about this packaging, because the store I bought it in had a price tag right here in the middle. So I just grabbed them. They're peanut M&Ms. That's what I wanted. Okay. But if you look here, they are green and brown and purple. Do you know what they're trying to do with this? They're trying to do like the women votes for women kind of colors. Yeah. And this doesn't make me feel better about anything.
No,
We're
and
flipping the status quo. I want to be status quo. I want to be a regular woman that does regular woman things. This is not appealing to me. Had I seen this, I probably wouldn't have bought it.
right.
I mean, once
It's like,
I had
wow.
it, I ate them because
Yeah, thanks. You know, lady M&Ms with nuts in them. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Well, and
no,
especially, and I know that's a joke that's been made before, but still that, and then they had their, you know, pro woman, um, you know, ad where it was James O'Keefe in lipstick. That's not who it actually was, but that's who it looked like, and it was hilarious. It's like everyone's posting like, "Oh wow, he's deep undercover in this one. He's really that whole
I
Project
didn't see
Veritas."
that one.
Project Veritas may have said no, but he is on his game.
But I just, when all the stuff was going on a couple weeks ago with the Hershey, with the dude, with the Hershey thing and whatever, I saw somebody on Instagram ranting about it, and this is what they said. They said, you are normalizing woman face. You are normalizing these men pretending to be women and taking their spots from us. I mean, freaking Jill Biden presented an award to a dude in a dress this week or last week or something. Like, we have to start saying it's not okay. Okay, I say this every week, but I don't want M&Ms. I don't want this. I don't want this. I want you to, I don't know, support a woman right to life, support, you know, things that are useful to us.
Or at the bare minimum, stop being so condescending.
Yeah, yeah. And this is probably somebody's marketing. Wait, hold on. There's another bit I didn't see on here. Let's see. We're flipping our packs to support women who are flipping the status quo. Thank you. You put a picture on upside down. If I didn't know better, I would have thought that something went wrong in marketing. But
from the marketing geniuses that brought you white Skittles.
I don't remember white Skittles. That was a long time ago, right?
Oh, white Skittles were because the only rainbow that matters during Pride Month is the gay one. They didn't want to appropriate the rainbow, even though that's what Skittles does. So yeah, you didn't know what flavor your Skittles were. Who thought that one through?
Yeah, no.
Little KKK Skittles. That's a terrible idea. Don't do it.
But this whole, and I know that during Pride Month, a lot of people complain about companies that like put a rainbow on stuff and then the rest of the year they don't say anything about it. And with this whole crap about women this month, I kind of get that. Like, if you're going to support something, support it. But I'm pretty sure that they're not supporting, you know, you and me being conservative. I'm pretty sure they're trying to support, you know, Neil as Black trans woman. So I find it, Drew Barrymore kneeling at Dylan Mulvaney's feet, M&M's, you know, giving me and these aren't even the US voter colors, as Ann and I did in our research. It's actually mustard and a purple color, but whatever. I have nothing useful to say for this. It's just, I don't know. It's demoralizing. This whole week has been sad. Right. Freaking the banks and the border and Ukraine and everybody thinking that like, oh, these men in dresses are so great. No, there's still a dude in a dress. And I found somebody, she goes by, I think her name on Instagram is This Is Savvy. She's a Black woman. She's probably closer to your age, Anne, but she talks the truth. And she was talking about how, you know, people are like, it was a dude in a dress saying, you know, people are born intersex, so therefore there aren't just two genders, blah, blah, blah. And her response was, there are just two genders because You can tell by the gametes they produce. They either produce eggs or sperm. That doesn't change. Sometimes there are people that are born with that are intersex because they didn't form properly in the womb, and therefore they cannot produce either of those things, or maybe some of them can. But it's, if you are a dude and you change all your shit, you still make sperm, and it doesn't matter what kind of lipstick you put on that pig, it is still a pig. So
right.
I'm just,
and, I mean, you could say, well, a stereotypical, thing about a human being is that a human being has, eyes, ears, lips, a heart, 2 arms, 2 legs, all of that. You're like, okay, that's a human being. You can have that if that's your working definition. And you can be like, well, this kid over here was born without an arm. You'd be like, no, it's still a human being. It's still,
right.
this is normal. This is what is normal in a human being. But this, just because there is some
right.
mutation or something going on.
And there are men and women who don't naturally produce eggs or sperm for reasons, but that doesn't, when it comes down to it, you can only make 2 sexes.
Mhm.
And if you're a dude, you have sperm, and if you're a chick, you have eggs, and they work together, and that's the only way it works. And I don't even know why we're talking about this still, because I mean, dude, you go buy a shirt that says there's no gender and you can pick either female or male fit. It just is what it is. It doesn't matter where you go. So anyway, I'm depressed this week because apparently the best person to talk about women and things is a dude in a dress. And so I guess I'm just going to go back to my kitchen, because why the heck not?
No, it is. And also, okay. There's another story that I wanted to talk about this week, which is it's not a news story per se, but it's more of, I don't know, I guess you'd say teachable moment. It's kind of trite phrase. But with news like this, but also with the importance of culture, because okay, it may be like, oh well, you're getting angry over an M&M packet. The M&M packet is pushing something. There was a kids TV show about a cow that had they them pronouns, and that the other cow was apologizing for not using the correct pronouns. And as they say every single time, these are my pronouns, they're what I feel most comfortable with. Oh, I'm so very sorry that I made you uncomfortable by not using your pronouns. This is what happens every single time. Also, I mean, people did complain, and I think they're like not renewing that show or something, whatever. Anyways, that you have these kids programming. It's like, no, that all pushes an agenda. I was talking about the film I was angry about, and that it was demoralizing. And you're like, oh well, it's a stupid superhero movie. Yes, it's a stupid superhero movie. I admit, movie sucked. But also, when you have the previous message of the films were things like, like, oh yeah, we are different, but we're a team, and together we work together to do this. There are insurmountable odds. There's this bad guy, or there's in X-Men world, this government program, and all of these things want to take us down, but we're not going to stop. And it is in fact beatable. We win. Even in fictional universes, there's the J.K. Chesterton line saying that fairy tales don't exist to tell children there are dragons, but to tell them that dragons can be defeated. Right. That you can, and also a common superhero trope is kind of what Jordan Peterson would call the reintegrated shadow, where you realize that yes, you have the power to change your own destiny. Also, that power can be used for evil. You have to confront that evil in yourself if you're going to help others. Again, yeah, stupid. Like, okay, that part's good. Most people aren't thinking about that. They're looking at the lasers or whatever the action scenes are, and they're having a good time. Right. But that whatever flows along in the plot you have the basic, it's good versus evil, and good wins, not because good wins every single time in real life, but good can win, that there is good out there, that there are other people fighting for it. It's not just you, that it really is achievable, and how that's very important. I mean, we're bound by stories. We're very storytelling people, but there is a lot of, we're gonna lose. There's no point. Just give up now. It's like, no, you can change it. The Dutch farmers are trying to change it. And there's a lot of times in life where you think you've won and the other side is going to hit back harder, but you still keep fighting because it is still an achievable thing. And I got to my point and to not my story, but yes, so that is all very important. Of course.
I think that you hit it exactly. Women flipping the status quo. We don't live in this society anymore where women can't do the same things that men do. I think that's part of what pisses me off. You know, I choose to live my life as a homemaker, educating my children, taking care of my family. That's my choice. If I wanted to go out and be an engineer or a CEO or something, and that drive was in me, there's nothing stopping me. But this package is telling me, oh, well, you've got to challenge the status quo. No, I just would have to work harder than I do at something different. And that's what it is. This whole thing of, oh, so anyway, that's most of what pisses me off about a lot of this stuff is that you saying, oh, you know, we need Black History Month. Sure, I think people do need to know more about Black people that maybe we didn't know the stories of before. But saying that Black people can't do the same things as white people is not doing them any service. Saying that women are flipping the status quo, why? Why do we have to? If I choose to, that's fantastic. If I want to live my life, then that's also fantastic. We live in the United States where I can do what is right for me and my family. And that's the problem. So
Right.
Anyway,
and also that, I mean, you know, tokenized is, you know, definitely a term to use, but you have Black History Month, but you don't have American History Month. I mean, we have the 4th of July, but it's like we're not sitting, or we're not necessarily focusing on the history of the 4th of July. That they want Black History Month, but they don't want in the context of American history or French history or, you know, African history. That it's very cherry-picked, even though they're talking about history.
And even in these situations, when you don't know the whole scope, you'll be like the people in England who are taking down statues of old white dudes and, you know, not using the Kitchener stitch anymore because they're offensive. But when you understand history in its context, yes, they might have been bad people or done bad things, but when you understand time frame and what's going on in the world and things, your viewpoint may change some. Right. But we don't teach it anymore. We teach everything very compartmentalized so that you don't see how everything works together.
Right. And like what you're saying with the taking down statues of old white dudes, that like, no, that in Wales, they're like, their offense is that they're old and white. Like previously, their offense was what they did, or, you know, in their view of what they did was considered to be offensive. But now the offense is their own flesh and bones, which again is incredibly bigoted. Like it's like, well, it's like, okay, so you could say this guy was a slave owner, and then we could have a debate about whether or not, you know, they still should have a statue to him because after all, he built this college. Okay. And he did he did charitable stuff in England, though of course he also did, you know, bad stuff with slavery. Okay. You can sit there and you can have this debate. You can add another plaque. You can say if you want to take down the statue, all of that. But if you're like, yeah, this guy over here, he didn't do anything wrong. He founded the town or he won a battle. But we're going to take down his statue. Why? Because of his skin color. I find his skin color really offensive. Like, like Carl.
Anytime anybody brings up something like that, like, oh, it's because of the skin color. Okay, if I were saying that about a Black person, would it be racist? So what makes this different? Like, you know.
And also, you know, it's like lottery what color you happen to be, but it's also life's lottery of what age you happen to be born into. And if you were born 200 years ago and the people 200 years ago thought you were cool enough to put up a statue to, then maybe, they had a reason. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe you should listen to whatever their reason was, that they thought this guy was great enough that he merited a statue.
Right.
No, I don't know. I wanted to mention this because it was sort of a kind of a teachable moment thing or not. So Gavin McInnes, who is a known, I don't know if you would technically call him right wing, but kind of right wing comedian, who he's been in trouble for a lot of things. He's been banned off most platforms, and he's the inventor of the Proud Boys. Though he invented the Proud Boys as a joke. They have their own thing, whatever. Anyways, that's this guy. Anyways, he asked to be on Friday Night Tights, which our friend Carrie has appeared on. So he got on the show, and you could tell with the panel that they're like, okay, cool, big guest, because he's well known. And Gary, who the channel that Friday Night Tights is on, is called Nerdrotic. So Gary from Nerdrotic, he's watched Gavin before. He has some funny comedy bits. Like, okay, sure, you'll come on. So he comes on the show, and this is opinion they all know that he had, so they weren't surprised by this. But he comes on and says that all comic book movies and video games and everything are absolutely childish, and you shouldn't do that because, after all, aren't you adults and interested in women? Okay, the rest of the panel sits there, and they're like, okay, this is your opinion. They're taking it as a in good faith argument. They're like, okay, you don't like these, you think they're childish. Quarter Black Garrett, who is on the panel, he's like, okay, well, if your entire life is devoted to video games and you don't have like a social life or a family life or anything, there is a point where anything becomes unhealthy. I understand that point, and you have other people trying to talk it through. But also the main pushback was, it doesn't matter if you think it's childish or not. This is culture. And if it's not important, they wouldn't want it. And this forming kids and this, forming adults. And I don't know, I'm a nerd and I get too into movies. I get it. But also, when you watch a good movie, it changes your mood and your attitude towards things. Okay, when you watch a bad movie, you're like, that sucks, I'm angry. When you watch a good movie, you are positively influenced, and they're using all of those influences for their own agendas. And like, no, this is important. You may not care about video games. That's fine. Many people do. It's actually irrelevant if you care, because it's a cultural thing. And also, if nobody cares about video games, if nobody really loves the comic book movies, we get crap comic book movies. See every movie now. If nobody really loves action movies, if nobody really loves music, what's with the music industry? But it influences people. That you need people who genuinely care about a genuinely good product if you want good products. And I mean, I know that many people in different culture war issues, especially nerd culture issues, have felt totally abandoned by the conservative side because they went, oh, well, why aren't you watching sports or something?
Right.
Yeah. So so there is that issue. And, and then, okay, so it kind of devolved from there that Gavin went around the panel and asked everybody kind of personal family questions. And it seems that his angle was going to be kind of the, oh, well, you're all nerds who live in your mother's basements, when almost everybody on the panel was married, or one lady was engaged and, and had children. So it's like, oh, wait, you all have your lives together. Yeah, we do. And another man on the panel was very much like, stop answering personal questions. It was almost this feeling as if, well, Gavin is the clever one, because, and he was saying things about, have, y'all tried not watching porn because, your life is so much better, as if the guy who's had every STD on the book, can tell you about these things, and tell you about the benefits of clean living as if he had some sort of like pedestal to talk about with this crowd. And okay, Friday Night Tights, very strong language throughout, and often they can get crude. Yeah, he was getting so crude. I was like, okay, like, sometimes y'all can be off, but I was thinking of turning it off, sort of a thing. Like it was getting to
Wow.
be so bad. But also it's like, oh, well, unluckily I caught it live, but also, so Gavin, who's McGinnis, who said the rest of the panel was awful, childish, comic book people. And again, they come back with good faith arguments and like, no, actually, it's like, actually, we care about the culture. And many of the people on the panel are the ones who are actually fighting for good culture. I mean, that they're actually with people who are building things. They're supporting people who are building things. They're people who are writing new comic books, people who are producing new movies, comic skates people, that they are, like he wasn't on the they weren't on the panel, but Eric July with the Ripaverse, and Jay with the Achromatic Chronicles that just came out, that they're trying to get good aspirational fiction out there for people, that they, unlike, again, the ideological left, but also to some extent the ideological right. Like, yeah, people are going to make products if they say, oh, it's right leaning, but also it's like, but do you really love the product for the product's sake, not just for the ideology's sake? Because it really tells. Anyways, so Gavin, who had gone off, even though he had kind of backed off a little bit about it being so childish, had gone off crudeness, but it did happen that he, that Gavin, mid-sentence, stands up with his trousers unzipped and then goes on the desk on a live stream after asking Gary, hey, is this channel your livelihood? Wow, cool, man. And then it was so insulting. And some people are like, oh man, no, it was a quote Wizinator, it was a fake thing. In practice, it doesn't matter at all because it was stupid, it was rude. He spent the entire time, when you're a guest, you respect the host and you respect the other guests at the party. And in the case of a show, you respect the audience. You respect the audience first and that's the first thing he did, was knocked the audience. You're all losers. And then pulls a stunt like that. And, again, rude, just low and crude. That's his level of humor. And then poor guy, they couldn't, the only guy with control of who to boot people off streams was Quarter Black Garrett. So, and he wasn't on at that moment. He had put the little avatar thing up and he had actually stepped out of the room. So they couldn't he didn't have the quick boot thing. And it was so, afterwards they talked about it a little, but immediately, the entire panel was shocked. He was booted. But it was very much the YouTube nerds were the better professionals than the quote professional, because they like, okay, wow, that happened. And they moved on with the panel. And they started bringing up news articles and stuff. And it was also very interesting with Gary afterwards that, so one of the panelists, Jeremy from D-Day Cobra, he went off on his own stream after that stream had ended. And Gary joined him, and Gary afterwards was kind of a little shell-shocked of, yeah, that was bad. We're going to take, the videos are moved to private. We're going to re-upload them with editing. He had also said that Gavin, when he first joined the call, used some very bannable language. First off, he's like, oh, are we live? Oh, I guess not. So it was like are you, again, it's not.
He was on purpose trying to something.
Yeah, it was like on purpose trying to sabotage the channel. And there's things that are free speech issues, free opinion issues, but then there's straight up content issues. And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't want to see that. You don't. And again, he was using crude language later, but like that's his opening. And it's a common YouTube joke that if you use any strong language, don't do it in the first 5 minutes of a live stream, because that's be the first ones that are auto checked if it's kid friendly or not. So you'll get demonetized. So it's like, oh, so you're just coming in to sabotage the entire thing. But yeah, it was extremely rude, especially since he asked to be on. And anyways, like I said, so Gary afterwards, he was kind of like, ah, man, that was bad, but we should have known. I mean, what kind of comedy he does and everything. But the next day he was ticked. And I kind of wonder if like he didn't have like a follow-up email or something with him and it didn't go well. Cause yeah, like I said, it was despicable behavior. And yes, this was the guy who called a SWAT team on him didn't call a SWAT team on himself. He pretended that he was swatted and he wasn't. But
the guy, the Gavin dude?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's horrible. Why would you pretend that?
I don't know. And then at the time it was like, oh man, like maybe it's being swatted. Then it came out later, like, now that whole thing was faked. And I'm like, oh, well, because when people are swatted, that's a serious thing. But it's like, it was really awful. And it was, again, you can't, I mean, yes, Gary said he could come on and everything, but not even basic respect to a host, not even hey guys, I'm going to do this, not a confirm anything at all. And Gary was saying afterwards that before he was like, yeah, I know that would happen, but sure, he can come back. And then next day he's like, yeah, he really, I don't want to say that anyone's absolutely banned, but it would take a lot for him to come back. And he's like, and new rules make sure that whoever has the ban button, they either keep their butt in the chair or they pass it off to somebody else. And it was very much we never had to have rules about booting people before. We do now.
Right. That's craziness.
Yeah. Anyways, I just thought it was an interesting thing, but also like, that the nerds were more interested in the culture war, basically, that they're more interested in getting things changed and getting things done because they're living it. What they love, what they enjoy, their hobbies are being actively destroyed every day. And it's true, we're all angry about inflation and crime and the rest of it, but sometimes you just get ticked because they broke your toys. And I mean, and some people get angry about that with NFL too, with Colin Kaepernick and the rest of it, but anyways,
yeah, it's all crazy stuff. I can't imagine anybody having the audacity to do something crazy like that. But we have to go because, as you can see, Anne's all the way in the dark now, and she won't even be able to show off our yarn. That doesn't help that much anymore. It's
not really
dark there.
Yeah, I know, we're filming later than we normally do. Anyways, sorry. Thank you for indulging me. But I thought it was a interesting story this week.
Yes, and make sure you follow Chicken Lady Fiber Arts. You can use her code Solstice20 PIK to get your own fabulous yarn.
And here, I'll put another one. Hopefully that'll be visible. This is her Lake Junaluska colorway. Make sure you follow us. Comment below to enter our giveaway.
Yep. Comment to enter. Use the code not PIK. Use the code Solstice20 PIK to get 20% off. Make sure you're following us on YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and like and subscribe, because when you guys do that, they show it to more people, and then we can find more conservative knitters. So that's always a bonus. And thanks for joining us. We will see you guys next time.
All right, see you guys then. Thanks.